Hello everyone, today I'm going to do a video on the VBC Lightning 12M rear pod assembly. Now I'm going to be doing a series of videos dealing with the Lightning 12M's features, but the first video I thought I would focus on the rear pod because people have been wondering about that. So let's work on the rear pod assembly here. So as you can see here, the rear pod assembly is a lot different than the previous models. A lot of material has been removed from the actual motor mount side and the non-drive side here, so definitely has lightened up the rear pod significantly. This will ultimately reduce the overall unsprung mass, which will definitely help out with the car's overall handling. Now, moving on to that, let's take a look at the bearing cam holders here. Now, you can see that the cam holders themselves no longer use plastic inserts, which is a great feature because, you know, we've been fumbling around with the plastic inserts trying to eyeball which is the correct one, and it takes a lot of time in order to get those inserts in and out of the old aluminum motor mounts. Now, these axle housings can be adjusted up and down by some screws underneath the pod here, which I'll show you in a little bit. But I just want to focus your attention on these shims here and here. Now, these shims adjust the ride height of the rear axle, which makes things so much easier than, you know, changing in and out those plastic shims. And not only that, there are some models out there from other manufacturers that have a similar setup where you have to fumble around with shims to adjust the ride height. But we got a bit of an earthquake here. Let's continue on. Anyway, so these shims come in different thicknesses. So you can set the ride height to the correct height. Now, in order to do that, what you need to do is adjust the screws underneath here. Now, I'm going to take the axle assembly off so it makes things a lot easier. Hopefully we don't get any more earthquakes. All right. So here you go. So you have your 4 screws right here, here, and here. All you have to do is simply loosen these screws and just shift the actual axle tube down a little bit, just so it gives way some space in order for you to pull out the shims or add new shims. Not only that, if you take a look here and here, you have the bulkheads. The bulkheads have been keyed into the actual lower carbon pod plate. And the reason for this, and this is a very smart design, Max Kuning actually designed this rear pod assembly, so excellent work, Max, with this design. Now going back to this setup here, what this does is it prevents the actual motor mount and the non-drive mount from shifting left to right when you're loosening these screws. So it keeps everything in line when you're loosening these 4 back screws. All right. Now, one tip when you do receive your kit, when you do adjust these screws, when you do loosen them, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the axle is in place when you are adjusting the ride height. The axle will just act as a guide to prevent the actual housings from shifting left and right, because I've actually adjusted these axle housings without the axle, and what had happened was the actual bearings were kind of like, the axle was kind of shifted slightly. So what was happening is the bearings were binding when the axle was trying to spin. So keep the axle in, and so that will keep everything straight and in line. That's pretty much it for the setup there. Now let's go back to the setup here. All right. So as you can see here, you have your beautifully machined axle housings here and here. And now you have this really aesthetically pleasing carbon tube, which not only looks good, but it also maintains the overall rigidity of the rear pod assembly here. So it acts as a cross brace, and it keeps everything solid. Also, it protects the bearings from any dirt and debris from entering in from the inside here. So that's a nice feature, and I really like this carbon fiber tube design. It really looks awesome. Really adds like a nice factory look to it. And one more thing, it also keeps the motor off of the axle. So sometimes you'll encounter situations where the motor might touch the actual carbon axle, but the carbon tube here will prevent anything from like that, from happening. So there you have it. So that's pretty much it. Nice lightweight design, easy to adjust shims. By the way, these shims come in various thicknesses here. These are composite shims. Easy, quick, can't complain. And that's pretty much it. And I can't believe I just finished this video after a miniature earthquake. All right. I hope this was of help. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to help you out. Okay, bye-bye.